morning, taking it seriously. I know my peer support students, our peer support students were very happy with the questions they were being asked and the respect they were given. We really do appreciate it. Just a little bit of background about how this day came to be for our school. In March, Madame Rowe and Snow Laura came and asked the peer support students if they'd be willing to organize a drug awareness day. And we all said yes, because we know that drugs are here, they are everywhere, and they do affect us. No matter what we say, drugs do affect us. And everyone in here, I bet, can tell us a story of how drugs affected them. So we're not here to preach and tell you don't use drugs. It's just to be aware of what drugs can do. We all are individuals. We have choices to make. I can't make a decision for you. You have to make a decision for yourself. So if you can make a decision that's informed, maybe you'll make the right decision. Maybe you'll make the wrong decision and say, wow, that was the wrong decision. That's what we're hoping to do, not to preach to you, to tell you what to do. I want to thank my peer support students. They're not all here. It was a lot of work, especially with everything that goes on. We've had a very busy school, I must say. So I'm just going to quickly introduce the ones that are participating in this event. I have Jamie Wiebe, Haley Seveson, Owen Dyson, Bryce Bastiansen, Rihanna Richat, Dessa Desotel, Alex Caskew, Skylar Sobkowicz, Alyssa Winzinowicz, Sam Mesner, Brendan Sumaling, Jeff Hirschfeld, and unfortunately a couple of students who couldn't make it today, Kate Simcock and Tyler Hughes, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. So what we're going to do, so on May 13th, we had written a proposal to see if TJs Gift Foundation would support us in this day, and they said yes, and invited us to their gala. So on May 13th, we went to the gala. It's quite a lavish event. We had a lot of fun, and it's in honor of TJ, a young man who was a victim of drugs. And we decided one of the things we would do is, in support of TJ Foundation, if you sign a pledge today saying that you will try to be drug-free, you will receive a t-shirt that was designed by one of our students. It's out there, it's also up here. And so if you sign the pledge, you will receive a t-shirt in the fall, grade 12s in June. So we went to the dinner and there they are, all dussied up. And Bryce and Alyssa had the honor of presenting a speech on behalf of our school and on behalf of St. Wiebe School Division. So we were being recognized for the work we were doing today. And there we are at the gala. I had a masquerade event, so some of the kids are wearing masks. They're not just wearing masks to be funny. And there they are having fun. So now we'll get to what you saw this morning. I'm going to ask Josh Bentley and his voice to come up, please.
Okay, so this is Josh Bentley, born March 8, 1995. Died on January 25th, 2014. He was a talented ballet dancer. He was a musician, and he had a dream of sending a message of peace through his music.
He wanted to show people that looks are just looks, and even if you look like a thug, doesn't mean you are. Josh was the kind of person who believed in peace and God. He became involved in drugs while in high school, which became a big part of his daily struggle. Josh was a good person who knew the difference between right and wrong. He would make decisions that were against his beliefs, such as stealing in order to buy drugs or alcohol.
Joshua was killed on January 25th on the Osborne Bridge. He was at a party, and a person at that party was trying to pick a fight with Josh. Josh's friends told him not to get involved, and they decided to leave the party. The person from the party had just been released from jail and was a violent person. He followed Josh and attacked him with a knife, killing him.
Josh was just a regular guy. He had parents who loved him and an older brother too. He was like you and me. How he became in drugs is a mystery. Was it to calm the demons or to make him feel better? We will never know. What we do know is drugs were a big part of his life. He questioned his choices every day, knowing that he wanted to be at peace, but drugs just took hold and wouldn't let him go. The result is now Josh is no longer with us. He touched many lives in a positive way with his kindness. He didn't want to be addicted. It just happened. He wanted to be free from them and tried to be without many times. Drugs really do affect anyone. It doesn't matter who you are. It can happen, and it can happen to you.
Around 6 a.m. Nicole Malik died of ecstasy overdose. This was her second time experimenting with drugs. At the Alpha Lounge Internet Cafe, John Bernardino casually popped the ecstasy pill into the mouth of Nicole Malik. What the manager of the now defunct Alpha Lounge Cafe didn't do was call an ambulance when the 17-year-old keeled over and began to convulse from what was clearly a drug overdose. Nicole Malik began convulsing around 6 a.m. It lasted 15 minutes, and then she slipped in and out of consciousness. Instead of calling for help, the manager sat back and allowed Nicole to slowly die. No one was called until 11 a.m., and by then, Nicole had already died. He told everyone mingling around that he had seen convulsions before, and that all would end up well. As the Crown described, he arrived grossly impaired and began dishing out the pills, asking Nicole Malik to open her mouth so he could pop one in. Bernardino was titled as a 30-year-old drug trafficker. It was an apt description. No ambulance, no cops, no problem. John Bush, a 19-year-old employee at the cafe who had been Malik's boyfriend for a week, was co-accused and became a Crown witness at Bernardino's preliminary hearing, but it was Bush who gave Nicole Malik the second hit of ecstasy, paying $20 for a blue Superman-crested pill. Donna Malik gave her up to her aging grandparents 13 years ago after plunging into substance abuse. One of Nicole Malik's uncles said back in November, "I often wonder if Nicole tried those drugs at the Alpha Lounge to see what was so special about them that a mother would choose them over her 40-year-old daughter." That quote was said on the eve of Donna Malik's funeral. The estranged mother and the ashes of her daughter lie buried together in Assumption Cemetery.
April 11th of 2011 after taking ecstasy that she found stashed in a house party. She took at least double the fatal dose of the drug and collapsed and died even after giving shots of adrenaline and CPR in attempts to revive her. It was revealed that she had extremely high levels of ecstasy in her at the time of her death. Brian Dodron, the 61-year-old owner of the house, later admitted that the drugs which included ecstasy, LSD, and ketamine, were his. He was sentenced to 8 months in prison. Brian had tried to kill himself by jumping off an overpass a week after Izzy's death. He survived, breaking both of his legs and needing brain surgery. At the hearing, it was revealed that Izzy had taken 2 pink pills with cherry designs on them. That is, and had dabbed what she had thought was cocaine on her gums. A teenage witness reported that at 3 a.m. she was breathing heavily. She was quite panicky and her jaw was moving as if on her own. Izzy refused an ambulance, saying that she was afraid of getting into trouble. After a friend looked it up on the internet and she assumed that she had taken ecstasy. Izzy went upstairs to lie down. The ambulance was called just before 4 a.m. when Izzy suffered a seizure and was foaming at the mouth. She was unconscious when paramedics arrived. Izzy's mother, Lynn, described her daughter as a lovely, warm, friendly girl who was just a normal teenager. Her mom did say she had suffered from ADHD and encountered some problems at school. After turning up to school under the influence of cannabis, she was referred to a drug and alcohol worker but was deemed to be not at high risk, and she had been making good progress according to this worker. One fatal mistake, that's all it takes.
Okay, so we're up here and we'll talk about Mike Benham, or as his family calls him, Mike. Mike died in his early 20s. He suffered from horrible depression from birth. To battle depression, he took antidepressants, but it didn't work. So he turned to street drugs to self-medicate. The cocktail of drugs he was on led to even worse depression. He tried a lot of different drugs, all worsening his depression. He decided to take his own life eventually. He basically made himself a gas chamber in his bathroom, walking along his last fatal endeavor. He had been an excellent student, loved fishing, and he was a kind person to everyone. He used to take me fishing on our privileges. His actions were varied of other couples our family spent. After his death, all of his belongings had been auctioned off to pay for fine. Many members of his family still can tell the story of mine. It changed the life of his family, his mother, and all around.
Imagine being an innocent bystander killed on a beautiful hot summer day. Imagine being stabbed to death not once, but 31 times. Imagine losing your own life over something you had nothing to do with. Imagine. This is Kayla Tran's story. In broad daylight on June 20th, 2012, 26-year-old Kayla Tran was stabbed to death by a friend of her own boyfriend's. His name was Trayvon Willis. Kayla was stabbed near St. Vital in Winnipeg at around 7 in the morning. Despite to pay off his $20,000 drug debt, Trayvon Willis agreed to commit murder for Drake Moslenko, boyfriend of Kayla's.
Trayvon Willis's drug problem had exceeded to a point where he had to kill to pay off his own debts. Evidence shows that both men were high on ecstasy when all this went down. David Moslenko was convicted of theft for taking Kayla's belongings, and Trayvon was convicted for first-degree murder.
Drugs not only affect you, but everyone around you. Imagine.
Wiebe. I was once a bright, caring, and compassionate guy, and felt a lot of responsibility for the less fortunate. This one girl, Trista, who I had once called my best friend, had been using drugs since she was very young. I had no idea that soon enough we would be using and dealing together. Since she was my best friend, I felt very protective over her. She had a relationship with, and had moved in with this guy I really did not like at all, and he didn't like me much either. I knew that he wasn't a good person, a bad influence of that, and we had many arguments. The boy who Trista moved in with went to a friend named Dominic one night and asked him to help kill me. But they wouldn't do it alone, so they got Trista and two other guys and began to form a plan. They actually sat around a table and discussed different ways to do it. Can you believe that? In the end, they took an idea from a movie where someone was killed by overdose with an injection of drain cleaner. So they filled up 4 syringes with lighter fluid, grabbed a hunting knife just in case, and had Trista call me. Yeah, you heard that right. My best friend. One of my hobbies was to install car stereos, and she had told me that one of her friends had totaled his car and had a car stereo to sell. So she called me one night and told me to meet her at her apartment to see it. I felt something sketchy going on, so I parked outside her apartment and decided to call her instead. She sent 2 guys out to meet me. They told me that they were going to drive me there. The stereo was supposedly at one of the guys' uncle's place, and you guys can probably guess what happens next. They began driving far in town to the middle of nowhere. On the way to the guy's uncle's place, we stopped to smoke some meth. Smart idea, right? We start driving again, and suddenly they start stabbing me. 3 times in the neck with that lighter fluid we were talking about earlier, and then once in my left hand. I won't go down without a fight though. I'm a fighter, but these guys keep on persisting. The guy sitting behind me wound up taking one of his shoelaces out of his shoe to bring me into the backseat by my neck and strangle me with it. In an attempt to preserve my one and only life, I bit him, but he persisted, and I was gasping for breath for about maybe half an hour before they stopped at the deserted road between St. Adolphe and St. Agathe. They pulled my body out of the car to strip me of my jacket, shirt, and 1 shoe. Then they proceeded to jump on my chest while I lay there, gasping for any breath to come. They stabbed me several times in my neck with that hunting knife, and at the end of it all, they just left me in a snow-spilled ditch until I was discovered several weeks later. It may be too late for me, but you need to know that you can change your own life. None of us would be here right now if it weren't for me and my story. Learn the lesson now, as I didn't know, or maybe I did, but just ignore the dangerousness of it all. Everyone makes choices, whether they be good or bad. And please, take every story that you've heard here today as an example of how drugs, most people involved with them, and you will be affected, just like me and everybody else here.
Just a couple of really quick words. I'm not sure you guys realize how difficult this was for everybody all day. All of these stories are very meaningful. We have a great keynote speaker for you, and I'm going to get Alyssa to come up and introduce him. But the one theme I heard a lot today, and Madame Cormier as well, is she talked about not being preachy, and we don't want to be that way, and we're not. This is about awareness. This is about acceptance for everybody. We don't care where you are on your journey. If you have something you want to talk about, we want you to come talk. That's all. Okay, and with that, Alyssa.
Okay, as she said, I'd like to introduce Grace Zorn-Ford. We first heard him speak at the gala last week, and we believe that Gray is going to be an inspiration to anyone who hears his story. I'll let him tell it. He not only changed his life that day he signed the pledge in high school, but all of ours as well, and we hope possibly yours. That was 3 years ago this month. This young man went from earning his half credit in grade 9 to the incredible successful and helping person he is today. We are so glad he's here, so please give a warm welcome to Gray.
I'll grab it. It's a disaster. Someone help it.
Hey guys, how you guys doing today? You good? Stop. So, as you guys heard, all those stories there, they're pretty crazy actually, because, I mean, I've heard a lot about them as well. I've read about them in the newspapers and everything. Did you know my name is Zorn-Ford? And the reason why I'm here today is because I was affected, like all those kids behind us. And I was affected, and I was lucky to get out, not being another picture on the t-shirts. I was very lucky, and I'm here to tell you guys a little bit about my journey. and what got me here, you know? So basically where I always start is I start at the beginning. In elementary school, the reason why I start there is because it's the beginning of the point where led me to doing drugs and using drugs. So in elementary school, at home, I was bullied by one of my siblings, and I didn't feel safe when I went home every day, so school was my safe spot. So I went through elementary, being happy to be at school, and scared to go home every single day. So from that point, I went through elementary school, being bullied at home and safe at school. Then middle school came along. Grade 6 was a great year. I had a lot of fun in grade 6. But then grade 7 came along, and I started being bullied, called gay, called a fag, said that I'm worthless, said that there's no point in people associating themselves with me. I was called and I was battered with all these insults in middle school. So when you take from elementary school, where school was my escape, middle school I had no escape. I would go home, I'd be bullied. I would go to school, I'd be bullied. That went on for 2 years, where I'd go home bullied, school bullied. I started cutting, I started having suicidal thoughts. I started feeling like, why am I still here? I don't understand why this is happening to me, what I did to deserve this. But it's happening to me and I wanted to stop. And it started making me feel like I really wasn't worthless. I mean, that I was worthless. That there is no point in me being here anymore. Who would miss me? I felt like no one would miss me because I had no escape. So when I went from middle school, I went to high school. I attended Zorn-Ford Collegiate in Wiebe, and I was so being bullied at that point, and I had no friends. So I started associating myself with the easiest crowd to get involved with was the people who were using drugs. So I started doing drugs in the summer of grade 8. That was the first day I ever smoked weed. And that first day when I smoked weed, I never knew what that would turn into, how far it would go. I thought I was just smoking weed, it wasn't a big deal. But I never knew the journey that I would take from that one day that I smoked. So I continued going on through high school. I was continuing smoking weed every day. And then I got offered to try ecstasy. So I did, and I had a really bad trip the first time. And my bad trip was, I felt like my insides were melting, and I didn't know what to do. I was outside of the 7-Eleven at the time, and I was trying to smoke weed to forget about it and try to stop feeling like my insides were melting. And so what I did to solve that problem was I threw up. I made myself throw up 4 times so that it felt like my insides came out and they weren't melting anymore. And then I started snorting my prescription, which was Ritalin at the time. And I started snorting that 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day. It was my prescription, so I could do it as much as I want. I would cut it up, crush it before school, bring a little tin to school with the powder in it, bring a pen that I broke in half so I could snort it out of my tin. And I do it about 6 or 7 times a day while popping ecstasy and smoking weed. I really liked using more than one drug at a time. It was something that I preferred over just using one drug. So where that took me was I was high at all points of the day, from the point that I woke up to the point that I slept, if I ever did wake up, because there was a lot of nights where I stayed up all night because I couldn't sleep because I was so high. And from there, I got suspended from school for 2 months because I lured a kid to the back of a strip mall and I beat the living crap out of him because he owed me $20. And I got the worst kind of suspension too. It was not an outside of school suspension where I don't even have to worry about going to school and I can just do my own thing for 2 months. I got an in-school suspension, so what that meant was I had to go to school every day, sit in the office every day, do assignments every day, but not associate myself with anyone. I wouldn't leave that building until I got there at 9. And my parents threatened me saying they would throw me in they would report me, send out a warrant for my arrest if I ever did leave school while I was on my suspension. So 2 months passed, my suspension was over. That day, I crushed up my drugs, put them in my tin, mixed them between Ritalin and ecstasy, went to class, smoked weed before. It was French class, and we had a substitute. So I thought, perfect time to get high. The substitute's not doing anything. He won't care. He won't even notice me. So I started snorting my drugs in class, and then halfway through the period, I get a call down to the office, and my principal says, heard you were doing drugs in class. I was like, no, I wasn't. And I was so high at the time that I didn't realize that I could tell him that he can't look through my backpack. But he asked me and I said, yeah. So that was pretty stupid of me. So he looked through my bag, he found my tin with all my drugs, found about 2 ounces of weed, because I was selling at the time as well. And he found about, I want to say 20 pills, and all my prescription that I would crush up. And he found one of my knives that I would always carry around with me. That was my one thing. I'd always carry a knife, and I wasn't afraid to use it. I would always carry a knife with me. So from that point, he told me that I can't be at this school anymore. He expelled me from not only the school, but the St. James School Division. So what that means is I'm not allowed, if I was still in high school, I wouldn't be allowed to go to any of the schools in the St. James School Division. So from there, he told me that 2 police were coming to find me here, and that they're going to take me to what's called YASU, which is Youth Addiction Stabilization Unit, which is basically like your mansion jail. So you go there, you eat, and you sober up. That's really all it's for. And they teach you about what type of things happen to you when you do drugs. So at the time, I had a broken foot, so that sort of sucked. So he was like, great, basically, I know you're gonna run, but they're gonna find you. So it was nice knowing you. I was like, all right, I don't even care what you're saying right now. I have to get out of here. I have to go find somewhere to hide out. So I started running down Ness Avenue, and I see a cop car pull up beside me, and it's like, are you Gray? And I looked at him and I was like, oh shit. Whoa, this sucks. So I looked down at my foot, I'm like, I'm in a boot cast. I'm like, all right, you ready? So I just bolted. Obviously, they tackled me and caught me in like 10 minutes. I was in a boot cast. So I went to YASU. Wasn't the only time I went there. I went there 4 times. They can only send you there once a month. But what that takes is your parents going down to the courthouse, asking for a warrant for your arrest. And the one other time when they got me was I was in my bedroom, woke up, light shining in my face, 2 cops in my bedroom. They went through everything, that was in my room to find my stash, because they knew I was selling at the time. Found it. I had probably about 8 pending charges on me that all were dropped. And from that point there, after I got into Yasu that time, that's when I started partying a lot. I started going to parties in the North End. Sorry, do you guys know about North End and how it's like the most ghetto part of the city? Okay, I'm not sure. You guys live in Lorette, so I'm not sure. But yeah, so I started partying in North End a lot, and I started hanging out with a lot of gang members, a lot of rapists, pedophiles, criminals, murderers. I started hanging out with a lot of criminals. So that got me into the serious drug dealing world. And when you put it on the timeline, I smoked weed, grade 8 summer, got expelled in 2nd semester of the year at the beginning, went to Yasu, came out, started going to these parties about a couple weeks later, and then I started using harder drugs. I started smoking crack, I started snorting cocaine, and the worst drug that I've ever done was I started smoking meth. And I was addicted to basically every single drug out there. Oxycontins, meth was definitely probably the worst one for me. I have scars from bugs on my arms. I have scars everywhere on my arms from picking at it because I thought there were bugs in my body and I had to get them out. And so I started hanging around with these guys. I started selling drugs for a gang. And there was this one night where I was making a big coke deal to a separate gang. And it was basically simple. 2 cars, 1 alley, 1 car on each side of the alley. We walk up with our bags, exchange bags, 1 with money, 1 with drugs. Then we walk back to our cars and it's a simple drug deal. So I get out of my car, see the guy get out of his. I start walking towards him. I have the bag in my hand. I go up to him, put out my hand. He doesn't put out his hand. He has his bag, drops it, reaches in the side of his pants, pulls out a knife, stabs me in the chest, pulls out the knife. I fall to the floor. He grabs the other bag, goes running back to his car. I remember staring up into the sky, holding my chest, looking at my hand, seeing the blood, and looking to the side while I'm laying on the floor, seeing the car that I came out of drive straight past me, going after the other car to get the drugs. I don't know how many minutes later, it felt like 2 days that I was laying there, but I'm sure it was just a few minutes. And the car comes back, they pick me up, throw me in the back seat, and start driving. This was right before I passed out from blood loss. And what happened is they stopped at the front of the hospital doors. Person out of the passenger seat gets out of the car, opens up the back door, grabs my legs, yanks me out of the car onto the concrete, gets back in the car, drives away. No one walked me to the ER. I laid there, passed out. Next time I woke up, I was in a room. My chest was stitched up. And there was a doctor in the room. The doctor left. I walked out of the hospital so that I wouldn't have to get caught. I would have to get charged. They didn't know who I was because I was passed out when they stitched me up. So, from that point, I continued doing drugs. I stopped hanging around the gang because I didn't want to get hurt again. But I continued smoking meth, snorting cocaine, smoking crack, popping pills every day, snorting my prescription. Continued doing all these drugs still, selling drugs as well on the side, just to make some money. And then, since I got expelled from Sturgeon, my parents moved to River Heights out of St. James so that I could go to school. And I started going to Kelvin, continuing still doing drugs, all the drugs that I was involved in, barely going to class. If I was in class, I was sleeping. And then Floyd, TJ's dad, came and spoke about TJ's story. And TJ was killed by his so-called friends that he was hanging around with. He was killed extremely brutally because of this whole love triangle going on. And from that point there, I was listening to his story and I thought to myself, I can see the exact same thing happening to me. Either from the people who I was hanging around with, or from the gang that I was selling drugs for, coming and finding me, because I left with probably about $5,000 worth of drugs in my backpack. And I kept that for myself. So I thought, there's two things going on right now. One, I could see either my friends killing me, well, friends. Two, I could see the gang coming and finding me, killing me, because I stole so many drugs from them. Or three, getting caught again doing something and going to jail. So I had to make a decision. And you guys all got those cards, right? I want you guys to pull out those cards real quick. Real quick, pull out all those cards. On the front, there's a picture of TJ. That was the last picture ever taken of TJ before he was murdered. The last picture. That's the last memory of TJ. On the back, if you guys want to turn him around, there's some writing, I don't remember it. It's like short-term memory loss or something. So I don't remember it, but it's basically a pledge to yourself, saying that I won't use drugs. And it's a pledge to yourself, that's the biggest part. It's not a pledge to someone else. You don't stop doing drugs for someone else, because it doesn't work. I tried to stop doing drugs for my parents. Didn't work. I went to rehab twice. Stayed there for 4 days, left, went back, stayed there for a week, left. You have to stop doing drugs for yourself. When I was in the position that you guys are in right now, sitting in the crowd and listening to this, I signed my card. I don't have my card anymore. I didn't lose it, didn't get destroyed, pretty close to being destroyed. Where my card lays right now is just a few days ago. Me and Floyd drove out in the middle of nowhere to TJ's murder spot. At the murder spot, there's a cross saying, kisses and hugs, TJ. And in front of that spot, there's a stake in the ground. The stake was put in there because that's where they found TJ's body, buried under 6 feet of snow. TJ's body that was frozen, eaten by animals. My card lays with TJ. My card is there to represent one of the many whose TJ's story and life has changed for the better. Trust me when I say, you guys don't want to go through what I did. Because I don't think I should be here. I really wish I wasn't here. I say that every time. I wish I wasn't here speaking to you guys on that stage. Because if Floyd didn't come to my school and speak to me about TJ, and I wasn't here, TJ would still be alive. I wish that I wasn't here. And the one other thing I want to really say is, I know a lot of people are like, I just smoke weed, it's not a big deal, it's a plant. Okay, yeah, it's a plant, we get it. Like, you don't have to keep repeating yourself, it's really no. It's a plant, yes. Except, do you know who you get it from? You may have a dealer. Who does he get it from? Who does his dealer get it from? It all comes from the same source, from the gangs. I used to lace drugs myself. They lace it so that you keep coming back. Lace it with crack, meth, dip it in acid. It's so easy to lace a drug. Surprising, actually, so easy. And you don't even tell the difference. I used to smoke laced drugs because I liked mixing drugs. And I knew it was laced because I did it myself. You don't know how dangerous a drug can be. Could be weed, could be ecstasy, could be Molly. I hate that drug, it's so stupid. It's 100% pure ecstasy. No, it's not. It's not really. It could be weed, ecstasy, meth. It could be a lot of things. You don't know what you're getting into because you don't know where it comes from. You don't know whose hands touch that. It's like a $5 bill. $5 bills travel across the world every day, touched by millions of people. You don't know where that $5 bill started. You don't know where that bag of weed started. You don't know where that pill started. You don't know what's in that pill until you take it and something happens. Drugs are laced to keep you coming back to them, to keep them supplied with money. Laced drugs become temptations for other drugs. You don't even know what the other drug is. You have to realize that you don't want to be going through what I went through. Because I 100% really don't think I should be here. I think I should be in one of two places. Jail, prison, or in my own grave that I was digging for myself. And I'm lucky I'm not. It's really tough to stand up here and speak to you guys. It's not because I'm nervous or anything like that. It's because I see myself in all of you guys, like every single one of you. Because I was in the exact same position as you guys, listening to someone speak. It hit me that day. It may hit you tomorrow. It may hit you today. It may hit you in a month, a year,
But when it does hit you, I hope that you think back to this day and think, wow, he had a point. He had a really good point. Just want to thank you guys so much for coming out. And one other thing. What day is it? What's the date today? 26? 27? 26? Oh, okay. Here we go. 26. In 2 or 3 days marks the day that I've been sober for 3 years. So, this is where a little segment comes up where, can I get you guys all to pull out your cell phones for me? I know you all have them. They might be in your teacher's desk if you guys aren't using your class. Now, go into your text messages. Go to new text message. And I want you guys to put in this number, and it's my number. And, yeah. Ladies, it's my number. And put in that number. You don't have to send me a text. You can save it as a contact if you ever feel like you might want to talk later on down the line. But at this point, I want you guys to put in that number, and you guys can ask me whatever question you want, and I'll answer it 100%. So the number is 204 771 6970. And whoever's ballsy enough can raise their hand and ask me a question. If anyone feels. Wow, I'm surprised. No one's man enough. Oh, this guy's man enough. Sorry, man. What's up?
You remember me. Jay told me.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Hey man, how's it going? It's been so long. Come over here. That's crazy. I knew this guy was wild. Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. We'll go like this. Go ahead. That's a really good question. So, when I did go back to my family, and I went to my mom before going to a hair appointment, and I showed her the card that I signed. I was like, hey mom, this is like a pledge to me saying that, you know, all of these things that I've been through, I want to change that. And basically what my mom said at first was, look, Graham, we've heard this hundreds of times, saying that today's the day that you're going to change. We may not believe you right now, but we 100% support that decision if you so choose to make it. My parents were very accepting of the fact, but it took them, because I was so involved, it took them 1 full year to realize that I really did quit using drugs. It took them a full year because I was so deeply involved. They were extremely supportive. I had amazing parents. And I feel horrible because my mom was up every single night for almost a year, crying her eyes out, wondering what happened to her kid. Why is this happening to my kid? So yes, they were very accepting, very supportive, but you still have to think. It's been said time and time again. But yes, very accepting. I saw, yeah. Sorry? What was running through my mind? That's a good question, actually. Well, probably hallucinations. I was high at the time. But also, I have to say, when I was stabbed, I was like, the first thing that went through my mind was like, did this actually just happen? Like I had a hole in my chest. What? And then the next thing was like, am I gonna die today? Like, is today the day that everything's over? And then everything just got dizzy and woozy, and I just couldn't think about anything because I was losing so much blood. So that was a really good question. I've never been asked that before. Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead. How did I quit? So basically how I quit was that day I made that decision for myself that I was done doing drugs. That same day, actually a few minutes later, I went on a walk with my girlfriend at the time, and I was offered to smoke weed, and that was actually the first day in about a year and a half that I ever said no to drugs. And what my strategy about everything was to set myself on a plan to become sober. I had lots and lots of withdrawal symptoms, lots of symptoms. And I also, so my plan was, I'm gonna isolate myself from everything. Go home, well, be at home, eat breakfast, shower, go to school, on time, get to class, sit in class about 10 minutes early. After that class was done, go to my next class immediately. Don't stop and talk to anyone in the halls. If anyone came up to me and was like, hey Gary, what's up? I'd be like, sorry man, I gotta go to class. I have some extra things to do and stuff like that, so I gotta go. So I would go from class to class to class to class with no breaks in between. Lunchtime, I set myself up with my counselor where I could hang out in her office and talk about how things were going and what was going on in my head and how I was feeling. And go through class. I told my principal that I didn't want any spares, so to set me up with something, even if I just go there and sleep, just to set me up with something, so I didn't have any downtime. And then after school, went straight home. Repeat. That was my plan. Worked great. Sucked, because all the withdrawal made me feel like complete crap. But it worked, and that's what I feel like it takes, is to isolate yourself not only from the drugs, but also from your current friends that are involved. Thanks for the question. Go ahead. Go on the crazy head down. It's awesome. No, that's a good question. No, it wasn't a wake-up call for me. Really, the only wake-up that I got from it was I have to stop being involved with these people, but I'll still be drugs. But I think it's just these people. That's the reason why I got stabbed, because I was hanging out with these gang members, and I was selling for a gang. So I was like, well, if I just sell on my own and get my drugs from someone else that isn't involved with gangs, then I should be fine. Luckily I was, because we all know drug deals go bad no matter who you're buying off of or who you're selling to. Always happens. Especially it depends on who you're selling drugs to. Me, I was selling drugs to rich kids. because they bought the most drugs. So, but at the same time, I don't know if you guys heard, Kelvin High School, there was the machete incident where a kid who stole, I think it was $100 of cocaine, and he stole that, and then kids from Sisler drove down to Kelvin with machetes, baseball bats, pellet gun, and the guy they were targeting, whose name was Jeremy Jones, was hit in the back of the head with a baseball bat. Pretty sure it broke his skull. Neck with a machete. And they carried him to the principal's office. There was blood all over the floor. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw the whole incident. Kid got shot with the pellet gun. Kid got sliced with the machete. His name was Mitch. His leg got sliced with the machete. He had his phone. It cut his phone in half. Didn't hit his leg. His phone saved his leg. So it really doesn't matter who you're buying from, what situation it is. There's always that opportunity for something to go wrong. Go ahead, Ben. Thank you very much. I've been very close. Through about, I'd say, a year and a half being sober. After a year, no, more like 6 months passed, I started reassociating myself with my friends, thinking that knowing that I was strong enough to not do drugs. So it was like, I had those temptations so much, especially through the withdrawal. I just wanted to go get all these feelings away from me and get everything fixed in my body so it felt normal. But yes, I had a lot of temptations, except it was just knowing that there's a better side out there that got me through it. So thanks for all the open voice questions, guys. You guys are really, I guess, what's that word? Someone help me out. I'm going to switch to the text message questions because I don't want them to be missed. How old are you? 19. Easy question. After you signed that card, did you ever go back to using drugs, even weed, or did you stop completely? Stop completely, right? As I said there, I never relapsed again. Oh my goodness. Did the bullying stop after I quit? Yes, it did. That's a really touching question to me because I was always worried about that when I did quit drugs because I thought it was going to come back. Because when I was using drugs, I still had suicidal thoughts. I tried to kill myself multiple times, tried hanging myself. I've been saved from I've been saved from everything. So yeah, I stopped completely. And just so you guys know, this is Floyd Wiebe, TJ's dad. So if you guys...
I'm going to say, I have no intention of being here today. Gray asked me to come and join him for moral support. This is a very touching day for me as TJ's dad. Incredibly emotional, as this is the very first time that anyone besides myself and my wife has told TJ's story. The first time that Gray has done this by himself, talking to kids, and to hear Alyssa tell TJ's story as first person just about blew my heart out of my chest. And to hear Josh being represented up there, I know they were just stories to you, but these are real people to me. I know Josh's mom very well. And I see her once a month at a sharing circle for homicide victims. And all that lady does is cry for 90 minutes straight because Josh is no longer here. And I'm not going to talk today because we've literally run out of time. But I want to thank you all. I want you to think so carefully about that pledge card that Gray was talking about. If you don't have one, please get one before you leave. I also want you to take down my cell number. It's on my idea, if you'd like. I also answer as many questions as you want. You probably have some for myself and my story. My number's on the website. You can easily get it, tjsgift.com. If you want it right now, it's 229-9633. 229-9633. I just want to thank you all so much for being here today. And you've been so amazingly attentive and showing this man respect. He's 19. He's barely over the age of you guys in this room. And I think that we all owe this guy a this takes a lot of guts.
One last thing, if you guys want to ask me questions, I'm going to respond to every single text, even if it was just a hello or you're hot. I got it through I'll respond to every single text that you guys send me, every single question, talk to anyone. So yeah, feel free to send me your Floyd text. You guys can take your 10-minute break on the way out.
Thank you.